Every dream begins as a spark, a small fire inside your heart whispering that you are meant for more. But most people never see that fire turn into reality. Why? Not because they lack talent, not because they lack opportunity, but because they nurture a disease called excuse. Excuses are the soft pillows we rest on when the climb feels hard. They give excuses are the invisible chains that quietly strangle the power of your potential. They wrap around your thoughts, your will, and your dreams until you no longer realize how deeply you are trapped. The most dangerous part of an excuse is that it sounds logical. It gives you comfort in your weakness and justification for your inaction. People spend years explaining why they couldn't do something instead of asking how they could have. Each excuse may look harmless, but together they form a cage that keeps you from ever reaching the life you truly desire. The mind is a master of deception. It uses excuses to disguise fear as reason. You hesitate, you doubt, and then your mind whispers that the timing isn't right, that conditions aren't perfect, that you're not ready. Every time you listen, courage dies a little and fear grows stronger roots. Excuses protect your comfort zone like a wall, but that same wall blocks your growth. Greatness does not come from safety, it comes from walking through discomfort with conviction. Excuses might save you from temporary pain, but they steal from you permanent strength. Discipline is the backbone of every dream and excuses are its poison. The moment you say, "I'll do it tomorrow," you weaken the bond between intention and action. Dreams fade not because they are impossible, but because people trade consistency for convenience. Excuses turn those powerful dreams into fragile wishes. You begin to imagine what could have been instead of creating what can be. Life doesn't wait for the perfect moment, it rewards the one who acts even when it hurts, even when the path is unclear. Excuses are built from ego and fear working together. The ego hates to admit weakness, so it crafts intelligent lies to protect itself. It tells you that the world is unfair, that luck wasn't on your side, that others had it easier. But these are not truths, they are weapons you use against yourself. Each excuse chips away at your integrity and your self-belief until you no longer trust your own willpower. The world doesn't admire those who explain their failures, it remembers those who rise despite them. Us comfort but steal our destiny. A single excuse can silently bury a lifetime of potential. The mind is a master at creating illusions that seem perfectly reasonable. It dresses fear in the clothes of logic and calls it wisdom. When you hesitate to act, the mind immediately begins its game. It tells you the timing isn't right, that you are not ready, that the conditions are not perfect. It convinces you that your caution is smart when in truth it is fear wearing a mask of reason. Each time you listen, you are not protecting yourself, you are surrendering your strength. Fear thrives on hesitation. It feeds on your doubts and grows stronger every time you choose the comfort of an excuse over the challenge of action. The mind becomes your greatest enemy when it starts negotiating with fear instead of defeating it. You begin to believe that avoiding risk is safety, but in reality it is slow self-destruction. The walls you build to protect yourself eventually become your prison. The more you justify fear, the deeper you bury your courage. Excuses give fear a voice, a shape, and a reason to exist. They make inaction feel justified and failure feel acceptable. When you allow fear to speak through excuses, you silence the power of your inner will. The voice that once said, "I can," turns into, "I will, but not now." Fear doesn't stop you with violence, it stops you with logic. It uses your own intelligence against you until you start believing that quitting is common sense. Courage, on the other hand, demands silence from excuses. It asks for action, not explanation. When courage speaks, fear has no argument left. You reclaim your strength the moment you stop reasoning with fear. Every step taken in the face of fear weakens its control over you. True confidence is not the absence of fear, but the refusal to let fear make your decisions. Excuses protect your comfort but destroy your growth. They wrap you in the illusion of safety while quietly stealing your potential. When you choose comfort over challenge, you stop evolving. Growth is never found in ease, it is born in discomfort, in the moments that test your endurance and break your patterns. Excuses whisper that you are safe, that you can rest now, that you have time. But that comfort becomes poison, slowly weakening your hunger for progress. Every person who chooses comfort over challenge is choosing to remain average. The path of growth is not soft or smooth, it demands effort, discipline and discomfort. Excuses are the defense mechanism of laziness. They protect you from the pain of effort, but also from the reward of achievement. The more you protect your comfort, the more your dreams decay in silence. Growth does not come to those who wait for perfect conditions, it comes to those who move despite them. The human spirit is built to expand, to explore, to go beyond. But excuses turn that spirit inward, making it timid and fearful. They convince you that you are fine where you are, that there is no need to push further. Comfort becomes a cage disguised as peace. It makes you forget what you are truly capable of. The comfort zone is not a resting place, it is a slow death for ambition. Every time you listen to an excuse, a piece of your potential fades into nothing. Discipline is the backbone of every dream. It is the force that turns ideas into action and action into achievement. Without discipline, even the most powerful dream will fade into wishful thinking. Excuses are the slow poison that kills discipline from within. They appear harmless at first, just a small delay, a single missed effort, but soon they become a habit. Every time you choose an excuse over effort, you weaken your willpower and strengthen your laziness. Discipline is built through repetition, through doing what must be done even when you don't feel like it. Excuses destroy that rhythm. They interrupt the flow of commitment and break the chain of consistency. The mind becomes clever in justifying delay, saying, "I'll do it tomorrow," or "I'm not ready yet." But tomorrow never comes for those who depend on excuses. Each excuse creates distance between you and your goal until the dream becomes unreachable. Excuses provide comfort while discipline demands pain. That is why most people choose excuses, they are easy, soft and effortless. But comfort never built strength. Every act of discipline requires sacrifice, and sacrifice is the price of greatness. When you let excuses take control, you reject that price. You surrender your growth for momentary relief. Over time, that small relief turns into deep regret. True discipline has no room for justification. It moves without negotiation. It does not ask for motivation or inspiration, it thrives on purpose. Excuses are the language of weakness, while discipline speaks the language of mastery. When you live with discipline, you build a relationship of trust with yourself. You know that no matter how difficult the task, you will show up and do what's needed. That trust becomes your greatest strength. Excuses turn powerful dreams into empty wishes. They take something that was meant to be lived and reduce it to something that is only imagined. A dream demands action, effort and persistence, but excuses strip away its strength and leave behind only hope without movement. People often talk about what they want to do, where they want to go, or who they want to become, yet their actions remain frozen. The excuse becomes their comfort, a story they repeat to themselves to hide from the truth that they simply did not try hard enough. Dreams require sacrifice and excuses are the refusal to pay that price. Every time you justify your inaction, you are selling your dream for the comfort of the present. You cannot plant excuses and expect success to grow. The more you reason with yourself about why it cannot be done, the more powerless you become. Excuses are the silent killers of passion. They drain the energy that should be driving your progress. What once inspired you starts to fade because excuses have taken away the urgency to act. When excuses dominate your life, your dreams slowly lose their meaning. They no longer push you forward, they become distant fantasies you revisit only in your imagination. You begin to talk about what could have been, what you almost did, or what you might do someday. But someday never comes to those who keep explaining instead of doing. The difference between a dreamer and a doer is not talent or luck, it is the willingness to act without hiding behind reasons. Excuses create a false sense of satisfaction. They convince you that it's okay to stop trying because there was a valid reason. But in truth, there is no valid reason for giving up on what matters most. Life does not reward explanations, it rewards execution. Every great achievement was once just a dream, but it became real only because someone refused to allow excuses to stand in the way. Excuses promise peace, but they deliver regret. The more you delay action, the further your dream drifts away from your reach. Wishes are weak because they depend on luck, dreams are powerful because they demand work. Excuses transform the powerful into the powerless. They take away your ability to shape your destiny and replace it with dependence on chance. Only when excuses die does determination rise. When you stop wishing and start doing, the impossible becomes inevitable. And the dream that once lived in your mind finally begins to live in your reality. Responsibility is the foundation upon which every great life is built. When you take responsibility, you stop waiting for others to fix your problems or shape your destiny. You stop blaming the world, the people, the past, or your circumstances. Responsibility means accepting that your life is the result of your choices, not your conditions. It gives you power because it places control back into your hands. The moment you own your actions, you also own your potential. Without responsibility, every excuse feels justified. With responsibility, every excuse becomes meaningless. People avoid responsibility because it feels heavy, but in truth, it is the weight that strengthens your inner spine. Excuses are easy because they shift the burden onto something or someone else. But what you push away never disappears, it only grows into a force that limits you further. Responsibility demands maturity, the courage to face reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. The more you accept responsibility, the freer you become from the traps of blame and victimhood. You stop explaining your failures and start learning from them. Excuses weaken your spirit, but responsibility sharpens it. It gives clarity where confusion once existed. When you blame others, you lose direction because your focus is outward. Responsibility turns that focus inward, allowing you to see where your power truly lies. You begin to act with purpose, not emotion. Every mistake becomes a teacher instead of a wound. Every challenge becomes a test of strength instead of a reason to quit. Responsibility transforms chaos into structure and turns struggle into discipline. Taking responsibility does not mean everything will be easy. It means you will no longer run from difficulty. You understand that growth and control cannot exist without accountability. Those who avoid responsibility live in a constant state of helplessness, waiting for luck to change their life. Those who embrace it create their own fortune. Responsibility gives direction to your energy, turning random effort into intentional progress. It is the difference between drifting through life and leading it with purpose. The ego is a master of deception. It cannot stand to face failure, so it begins to create stories that protect its fragile image. Instead of admitting a mistake, it points fingers, shifts blame, and finds comfort in excuses. The ego would rather live with an illusion of strength than accept the truth of weakness. It hides behind explanations and justifications because truth threatens its control. Every time you say, "It's not my fault," or "I tried but couldn't," it is not humility speaking, it is ego disguised as reason. When the ego takes charge, learning becomes impossible. A person trapped by ego cannot grow because they refuse to see where they went wrong. They protect their pride more fiercely than their progress. The ego will tell you that you are always right, that others misunderstood, that life is unfair. It builds a fortress of excuses to guard your comfort zone, but that fortress becomes your prison. No wisdom can enter a mind that is already full of self-justification. The moment you defend failure instead of understanding it, your growth dies silently. Excuses are the ego's defense mechanism against truth. They make you feel safe from judgment, but rob you of evolution. When you say, "I could have suck," excuses are the most dangerous lies because they sound like truth. They wear the mask of logic, making you believe you are being practical when in reality, you are only avoiding responsibility. They are crafted carefully by the mind to protect your pride and to justify your inaction. Every excuse you create is a small lie you tell yourself to stay comfortable. You convince yourself that it's not the right time, that you don't have enough resources, or that life is unfair. But deep inside, you know the truth. It's not the world stopping you, it's you. These disguised lies destroy self-belief slowly and silently. When you repeat an excuse enough times, it becomes part of your identity. You start believing you are not capable, not ready, not worthy. That is how people bury their potential, by lying to themselves and calling it reason. Excuses become the soft whispers that erode your confidence one thought at a time. The mind finds satisfaction in defending failure instead of fighting for success. You lose trust in yourself because you keep breaking promises made to your own soul. Integrity dies when excuses take control. Each time you make an excuse, you step further away from your truth. You begin to speak words you do not believe, live actions you do not respect, and pretend satisfaction you do not feel. Life built on excuses is life lived in dishonesty. You may fool others, but the deepest part of you always knows when you are not being real. Excuses numb that voice, but they cannot silence it forever. Eventually, the weight of unfulfilled dreams becomes heavier than the comfort of lies. The mind creates excuses to protect the ego from pain, but in doing so, it destroys growth. The ego would rather stay right than evolve. It would rather explain failure than endure the discomfort of effort. It paints lies as logic to keep control. But the truth does not need defense, only weakness does. Excuses are the walls the ego builds to hide from accountability, but those same walls become your prison. When truth is avoided long enough, it begins to fade from your awareness. Excuses are not harmless thoughts, they are the seeds of self-destruction. Each one you plant grows into a barrier between you and your destiny. Only way to break this cycle is brutal honesty with yourself. When you stop lying to protect your comfort, you start living to protect your truth. Growth begins the moment excuses end. The energy once spent on justifying your weakness turns into the fire that forges your strength. In that honesty, power is born and no lie can survive its light. Edith, if things were different, you are not being honest, you are protecting your pride. The world never remembers those who talk, it remembers those who act. Words without action are just noise that fades with time. The ones who constantly explain why they could not do something are forgotten because excuses have no legacy. History is not written by those who waited for the right time or perfect conditions. It is written by those who moved forward despite fear, doubt, or limitation. Action speaks a language far more powerful than reasoning. It tells the world that you were here, that you live with purpose, that you made a mark. The world is full of people with great ideas and endless explanations for why they never began. Everyone can speak of plans, but very few dare to execute them. Action demands courage because it exposes you to failure. Excuses protect you from that exposure, but they also hide you from greatness. The difference between an achiever and a dreamer is not intelligence or luck. It is the willingness to act when others hesitate. The door accepts imperfection and moves, the explainer waits for perfection and remains still. The respect of the world is not given freely, it is earned through proof. No one celebrates intentions, they celebrate results. You can spend years telling people what you will do, but one act of discipline, one step of effort, one move of commitment will say more than 1,000 promises. Action gives you credibility. People follow those who lead through deeds, not those who justify their delays. Every excuse you make weakens your influence, while every action strengthens it. The door lives in motion, the explainer lives in memory. While one creates progress, the other creates stories. The world is drawn to movement because movement inspires. Those who take action become examples, showing others what is possible. They fail, they learn, and they rise again. The explainer, on the other hand, remains trapped in the endless cycle of what ifs and could haves. Life passes them by while they keep rehearsing reasons instead of writing results. The truth is simple. Respect is earned through action, not argument. The world has no patience for excuses because it moves forward with or without you. The door understands that talk changes nothing, only effort does. To be remembered, you must act. To be respected, you must deliver. When your work becomes your voice, you no longer need to explain. The world will recognize your presence not by what you said, but by what you built. Freedom begins where excuses end. The moment you stop defending your limitations, the walls that held you back start to crumble. Excuses are invisible cages. They lock you in patterns of fear, laziness, and self-doubt. When you finally decide to face the truth and drop every justification, something powerful awakens within you. You begin to see that you were never truly trapped. The prison was built by your own words and thoughts. Freedom does not come from the outside, it begins in the mind that refuses to bow to excuses. A person ruled by excuses is a slave to hesitation. They live under the control of fear and uncertainty, believing that life decides their fate. But the one who ends excuses takes back authority over their existence. Freedom is not comfort, it is responsibility. It means standing face to face with your choices and accepting their consequences. When you stop blaming others, you start shaping your path. The weight of accountability may feel heavy at first, but it is the same weight that strengthens your will and defines your character. Excuses give the illusion of safety, but that safety costs your freedom. They make you believe that you are protecting yourself from failure, when in reality, you are protecting yourself from success. Every excuse you make is a piece of freedom you surrender. You start building fences around your potential, and soon you cannot even remember what it feels like to move beyond them. The moment you decide to act despite fear, you reclaim a part of yourself that was lost. Each fearless step tears down another wall of limitation. True freedom demands courage. It requires you to walk through uncertainty without the shield of justification. It asks you to trust your strength more than your excuses. The mind will always try to pull you back to comfort, whispering reasons to delay or retreat. But freedom comes only when you silence that voice and move forward anyway. The fire of discipline and the force of purpose are what burn away the excuses that once controlled you. The person who embraces this fire becomes unstoppable. When excuses end, possibilities begin. Life opens itself to those who dare to act without waiting for perfect conditions. Freedom is not the absence of struggle, it is the power to choose your struggle consciously. Every moment you stop explaining and start doing, you expand your existence. Excuses keep you small, action makes you infinite. The world belongs to those who have the courage to live without excuses, for they are the only ones truly free to shape their destiny.